ESPN doesn't want you to know this, but the Big 12 is quietly dominating bowl season from BYU to Iowa State, Kansas State. Let's break it down. This is Locked On Big 12.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Big 12. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. Thank you for making this show your first listen every single day. We will start with the Big 12 from, again, BYU to Iowa State is dominating bowl season, doing more than enough. But the major networks don't want you to know that. TJ Pittenger joins the show to talk about it. And the most shocking part of BYU's win over Colorado, we'll get there, as well as Baylor taking LSU to the woodshed thanks to opt-outs. It just means more opt-outs. If you hit subscribe, I get to keep my job. TJ, why is the Big 12 not getting the respect it deserves?
But Drake, the Big 12's having a pretty good bowl season and not maybe done yet.
Yeah, the Big 12's having an awesome bowl year, TJ. They still have an opportunity to go to the college football playoff national championship or win the whole thing. Do I think Arizona State can carry the boat that far? It's not impossible. Certainly not impossible. But if we just break down what's happened in bowl season, there's only been one monumental loss for the Big 12, one embarrassing loss for the Big 12, that being Texas Tech against Arkansas, a game where the Razorbacks, honestly, based on how many opt-outs they had, transfer portal additions, or subtractions, I should say, they had, Texas Tech should have won that game. On paper, they certainly did, but the Hogs blew them out. Outside of that, Kansas State, the ability to come back against Rutgers. Iowa State, down by 10, second half, comes back against Miami. BYU, proving they could have made noise in the college football playoff. TCU, that they could have easily had an embarrassing loss to ULL, wins 34-3. I think Baylor is going to put LSU in a very tough spot on New Year's Eve as well, given the fact the Bears are by and large playing and LSU is not. And like I said, Arizona State an opportunity to make even more noise. I am monumentally impressed with how the Big 12 has handled bowl season to this point, even when adversity is hit. And that's what's so interesting about this, TJ, is you get down by 3 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns in a bowl game. What's the point, really? I mean, yeah, you win a bowl, but 10 years ago it mattered more when there was only a national championship game from the BCS. Today it's like, oh, okay, well, you won or lost a bowl game. And that hasn't been the mentality from Big 12 teams. This conference is almost single-handedly carrying the entire idea that bowl games matter. And with that, I'm so pumped by what the different schools here, even West Virginia, who is down a head coach and down a whole lot of production, scoring 37 points, getting within 5 against Memphis in a game that could have been a blowout. The lack of give up, the amount of grit and fight the Big 12 has displayed has been huge. And even this Colorado loss, this is the perfect storm for an ESPN who doesn't want to see the Big 12 succeed too much. They got a loss out of a Big 12 team because the Big 12 played itself in a bowl game. But even there, BYU shown so bright that the Big 12 ended up winning overall in the end. And so I'm happy with how bowl season has panned out so far.
As somebody who actually likes college football, right, doesn't just work for the 4-letter network and cares about money, right, it has been so great to see the Big 12 in bowl season because of what you just mentioned. Nobody cares about bowl season. A lot of people still care about bowl season, right? Fans are still tuning in. Fans are still watching this. Fans still want to see their teams go out and compete. And yeah, is that tough at some places? You think about West Virginia, down a head coach, down players in the portal. Yeah, it is really tough for some places, but that hasn't changed. And the Big 12 very much feels blue collar, very much feels like, hey, we're not the wine and cheese crowd of this conference. We're not the SEC powerhouse of this conference. We're not the basketball conference of yesterday like the ACC is. We're just going to go out and compete and we're going to work hard. And this is the result. And so, yeah, it almost takes on the mentality of the entire conference of, yeah, we'll show you. And I'm so excited to see Baylor. I know for several reasons you are too, but I cannot wait to see Baylor. I've got all the tweets in the drafts ready to go for when Baylor takes on an SEC team this week. And I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
Give me the Bears in that one, no doubt, because the opt-outs for LSU. And that's a big piece of this is you'll have SEC schools or ACC schools too that are, and it depends on your brand. In the ACC, I think NC State wants to fight for a bowl win. Miami, they're probably going to care a little bit less because they wanted that college football playoff nod. Across the board, though, the Big 12 schools, they don't care about the other teams across the nation going, oh, well, our players didn't play, or oh, we opted out. There are certain cases, Florida State last season, where you go, okay, I get it, that you guys got completely screwed and this is a protest. But then this year, there are a lot of SEC schools, LSU included, where it's not a protest. Their players are just opting out because they don't want to play for whatever reason that might be, or they're entering the transfer portal. So for the Big 12 to have so many teams commit to actually playing bowl games, it's not a little brother mentality. It's a college football mentality that is lost on everybody else. This conference, at the very least, has shown this bowl season that football games still matter to us. And that's something that's going away for a lot of major programs across this sport. I'm glad that the Big 12, the Big 12 namely, can show the world what it looks like when a Heisman Trophy winner plays, when a team full of blue chip sophomores like Iowa State has, when those kids play, when an Avery Johnson, a future Heisman Trophy candidate like Avery Johnson, when that guy plays. This makes bowl season so much better. Or Josh Hoover breaks a record at TCU because he played. Now we've set the tone. This is college football and it still matters even if it's in December.
Could you imagine if Kansas would have gotten into a bowl game? Could you imagine if they would have faced off against one of these SEC teams that, it is nice the SEC has the built-in excuse. If we win, it shows that we're the best. If we lose, we didn't care about it. But could you imagine if Kansas State would have been playing, South Carolina or Ole Miss or one of these complaining teams that thinks they should have been in? Kansas would have beaten anybody. The way they were playing down the stretch, nobody would have wanted to see them in a bowl. I know that this isn't necessarily where the video was supposed to go, but they would have been a lot of fun to see in bowl season because, like you just mentioned, the games actually matter.
And the only one who could slay the giant slayer, the Baylor Bears, beating Kansas handedly in Waco, that just goes to show, I think, that the Baylor squad is so hot, they'll be able to put LSU in a very tough spot when they play here on New Year's Eve. So, yeah, you're right. You're getting me to want and wish here. But, yeah, seeing Kansas play at Ole Miss, my money's on the Jayhawks there. And Ole Miss fans will balk at that because they don't actually watch college football. But that's how well Kansas was playing at the end of this season and the kind of athletes they have when you take Jalen Daniels into account and the way that he was down the stretch here. So, yeah, TJ, I'm right there with you. I wish the Big 12 would have gotten one more opportunity with that Kansas team and instead of West Virginia. And I know West Virginia fans will push back on that, but without a head coach and a game like that, they were going to struggle in that bowl game no matter what. I would have loved to have seen what Kansas could have done.
So all of this considered, there was so much talk. We've talked about it on several videos now about who should have been in. This team was looked over, or this Bama team was snubbed, this, that, and the other. There was another 10-2 team that beat a playoff team, that lost to a playoff team very close, that was left out. Nobody wanted to talk about BYU when everybody else was complaining, but BYU came out and beat the snot out of Colorado this weekend, and maybe looks like a team that, again, because they weren't in the Big 12, not considered, we don't respect the Big 12 at all. We don't care about that conference. But maybe looks like a team that should have been in over SMU, a team they beat head-to-head, a Tennessee, a team that got boat raced at Ohio State. I don't know. BYU has to be the biggest snub of the entire thing.
I think so. It's tough because they did win 10 games in the regular season and they beat SMU. They should have gotten in over an SMU or over a Clemson. That's a head-to-head matchup. they did the one thing you can do, and that's win head-to-head. BYU did that against SMU. Tough. It's tough to see them beat Colorado the way they did and now really start to wonder, oh my gosh, what could have been if BYU had gotten into the college football playoff? And I hate to play the game of, would they have been better than Tennessee or would they have been better than Clemson? Maybe not. No matter what, they should have gotten more respect. Had they been the number 9 team, had it been a vacuum and everybody starts without an AP poll ranking. If there's no ranking week 1 and week 5, we release the first one and BYU, who's undefeated at that point, gets to be number 11. At that point, they're in. No doubt they're in. If we played this game and everybody just had a box with a question mark on it, you gave their resume, the Cougars are a college football playoff team. But because of the Big 12 logo or because of the bias against the Big 12 and the bias toward the SEC, that didn't come to fruition. And again, it's a great season for BYU, but I'll wonder what would have happened if they got in. Yeah, the idea of, everybody's the same. It's just not the case. There is so much bias built into preseason rankings. And I know that the College Football Playoff Committee they don't consider, they absolutely do. They consider ranked wins. They just look at the AP poll, right? From the weeks prior when they weren't meeting, week 10 and beyond. So before we get to the most shocking part about BYU's win over Colorado, I got to tell you about Rocket Money. Rocket Money is Dude, I can't. I'm not very good at the financial thing. I'm 23. Rocket Money helped me find subscriptions I forgot about, and then I was paying for twice. Canva paid for it twice for like 3 months. Rocket Money said, "Hey, stop doing that." Right now, 5 million people are using Rocket Money. They have helped save over 500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to 740 a year when using the app's premium features. For me, one of the best features is the subscription tracker. I've used it to cancel services. I've also helped their goals. Their goals features help me automatically set aside money for my future. No more stressing about budgeting every month. Cancel unwanted subscriptions. Reach your financial goals with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked-on today. That's rocketmoney.com/locked-on. rocketmoney.com/locked-on.
Man, we both thought Colorado would win this thing. What went right, besides everything, for BYU?
You know, I predicted, I was shocked. I was truly shocked by this football game because the nature of which BYU won it. I thought there toward the end, okay, I'm going to kind of lean BYU, give them the edge because their run defense and their run game and the lack of run defense for Colorado. Little did I know, BYU was playing with its food. Colorado is a very good football team. Nothing should be taken away from Deion Sanders, Travis Hunter, Shedeur Sanders. There should be no conversation about, oh, that was your Heisman Trophy win. No, you just played a very good BYU football game who was poised to win this in the trenches and poised to do it with their run game. And even when their offensive coordinator, Aaron Roderick, was like, oh, what about a little pitchy, woo-woo end around? Anybody who would like some of that? No, it's a great way to turn the ball over. And BYU did turn the ball over, but they were so dominant in the run game. Had they stuck to that, they probably win this game by 40 points. It was that kind of performance for the Cougars. That's what surprised me the most. Is not that they won necessarily, but how they won it. This was never, ever supposed to be a blowout. What a dud of a game just because BYU was that good.
Yeah, we thought that, and we had seen Colorado's offensive line be a lot better this season. So much improvement over what they showed in 2023. BYU's defense never let Shedeur be comfortable. They never let the run game get going, and it looked like the Colorado offensive line from 2023. That defense, you mentioned the way that they played offensively. Obviously, their special teams was great too, but their defense just, if you're going to beat Colorado, you got to limit their best weapons, which are on offense, and they absolutely did that.
I'm not sure if I've seen Colorado play scared this season until that game. You look at the Kansas game, they got down by so much. They were trying to play comeback, and against Nebraska, it felt like the entire season could have been derailed. And a ton of credit to Deion Sanders for keeping the team together following that Nebraska loss and putting them in this position. But they looked, for the first time to me, scared against BYU. You could see it on that one specific play where they're at the 7-yard line in BYU territory, about to go score. They can make this game competitive once again. And then Shedeur gets sacked. Not only does he get sacked, he starts running backwards and loses 20 yards. I mean, if you look at the box score of the game, if you didn't watch the game and just went to the box score, you would see that not only did BYU win, but in finality, they held Colorado to, this is stunning, they held Colorado to 2 rushing yards. 2 rushing yards on 19 attempts. That is, most of that came from sacks, but that is still a 0.1 yards per rush for Colorado. I don't know if I've seen them play so scared in a football game, and Deion Sanders said it in the postgame. He said everything that I'm saying right now, and that was, we got our butt kicked by a darn good football team. A ton of credit to Kalani Sitake. That credit was given by Deion Sanders in this BYU season. This BYU season will always be a, had we gotten to the playoff, what noise could we have made? But this was a great exclamation point on an 11-win campaign for Kalani Sitake.
Yeah, and just talking big picture about that. Obviously, they were so impressive in the game. Special teams was so impressive. We didn't really hit on that, but obviously the punt return. They were so good in all 3 aspects. And like you said, Coach Prime, people like to get on him. We'll talk about Colorado in a little bit, but I mean, he said all this too. This isn't like, oh, Drake and TJ just hating on. No, Coach Prime was pretty clear about what happened in this game.
I'm probably being nicer about this game than Deion was, honestly.
Yeah. And that was just the public things that you saw him say. The private things may have been a little harsher. But man, like you just mentioned, an 11-win season. This is unthinkable. Like, nobody expected this out of BYU. I don't even know if people inside the program. You're always gonna, we're gonna win every game. Yeah, you're always gonna have that confidence, right? That fake confidence, and fake it till you make it. Nobody expected this. How did this turnaround happen?
Yeah, this reminds me a lot of that 2022 TCU season where the Horned Frogs did go to a national championship. But I do believe had BYU again gotten to postseason play where they could vie that 12-team playoff, they would have had a shot at the very least because of the magic they'd put out there. Look at some of these scores, though. The SMU game, 18-15. The Baylor game, 34-28, where Baylor made a really big charge there late. Or Oklahoma State, where it took a miracle at the end to go win it against the Cowboys. Or Utah, where it took a miracle at the end to go win it against the Utes. BYU is a handful of plays away from looking at a 5-loss season, a 4-loss season, and this being a completely different campaign. What was so great about BYU is they used their experience and honestly, such an impeccable coaching in 2 of those 3 phases, that being defense and special teams, to go make that one last play. That extra veteran play at the very end of these football games, and the Colorado game notwithstanding, it was a blowout. But in so many situations here for BYU, they took the expectation and said, hey, look, even in close games, even when not just you predicted us to lose this many games in the season, now you're predicting us to lose based on the ESPN in-game projector. Oh, we have a 73% chance to lose this game. Watch this. Hold my non-alcoholic beer. They would go down and find a way in the end. So to me, if you break it down, not just as the season as a whole, but a microcosm game by game, holy cow, this team just had a knack for winning football games. It wasn't luck, a knack for winning football games because of the coaching and the veteran experience. The Cougars, they shocked a whole lot of people. And again, you've got to be excited with that. But you'll always wonder, we shocked a lot of people, and we were 1 game away from shocking the entire country.
Yeah, it felt like they found ways to win, whether it was that SMU game with defense, whether it was a different game with a ton of points and offense or a comeback. And Saturday night felt like, hey, let's just go out and put it all together against maybe the most talented team we've played all year. Let's not play just one side of the ball. Let's play all 3 and show what we really could have been. It did feel like this game, not personal by any means, but just hey, we're going to go out and show you that we can put a complete effort together. And they had the time off to do that. They had the rest. They had okay, let's refocus. Obviously a game later in the bowl season. And to me, that's what it was. They put it all together. What does this mean for them? 1 game does not a program make or miss, but what does their future look like there? What we've talked about the portal and stuff in other videos, but where are they from a going forward standpoint?
Yeah, BYU is one of the deadliest teams in the Big 12 moving forward. And part of that is because the athletic department has committed, my ring light can't commit to staying on, but the athletic department at BYU can commit to winning. And that's something that's new. Saying that's weird. Now, I'm going to back up now on my soapbox here. BYU fans are going to hear that and go, whoa, what are you talking about? We've always wanted to win. Yeah, BYU's done it with 3 stars. They've said, all right, let's go to Orem. Let's go to Park City. Let's go find that 3-star kid. Let's go to Lehigh. We're going to turn him into a 5-star young man who goes on his mission, comes back and wins us football games. We go 8-4. Now BYU saying, oh shoot, let's go find a 4-star or a 5-star, pony up the NIL. You saw it in basketball. Basketball put a lot of pressure on football to be this new branded BYU. And with that, they're going to grab more talent out of the portal, more talent out of the high school ranks, still develop those kids at the rate they've done for those 3 stars, and compete in the Big 12 moving forward. TJ, this is the flagship university of one of the fastest growing faiths in the entire world. The pockets are deep. The support is deep. The support is worldwide as well. BYU is in as good a spot as anybody, whereas a Cincinnati, that's got to be blue collar. BYU's been blue collar for a long time. Cincinnati has to stay blue collar because they've got pro teams in town. They don't really have, it's kind of that recruiting area is decent, but you're competing with Ohio State. For BYU, you don't have to say blue collar. You've got the money, you've got the donors, you've got the ability to go nationwide for recruiting and nationwide support for your support base. A lot of Big 12 teams don't have that luxury. The fact that BYU does, buckle up. This era of BYU athletics will be the greatest that we've ever seen. Baylor is going to beat the brakes off of LSU. If you just Google, just the Google machine can tell you a whole lot of things in this life. If you just Google opt-outs, transfers, and look at what LSU is going to be missing in this game, oh my gosh. It is insane. The lack of care. It just means more opt-outs. It just means more transfer portal subtractions. The Tigers will tell you at the end of this, well, we didn't even care to be there. When they get blown out, they don't have a 1,000-yard rusher. They don't have a 1,000-yard wide receiver. When they get blown out, Garrett Nussmeier, who was playing, who was like, oh, well, I'm going to play in this bowl game. We'll show. He has thrown 491 passes. Listen to this stat. 491 passes, 26 touchdowns. Sawyer Robertson, 317 passes. That is 150. The difference in those two, 150 passes different. 26 touchdowns. Robertson has the same amount of touchdown passes, has completed 114 less passes than this hotty-toddy, high and mighty SEC quarterback who lost to Florida, who got beat 42-13 by Alabama, who got shellacked by Texas A&M. That's the same Alabama team who lost to Vanderbilt, the same Florida team who struggled to get to a bowl game this season. This is the same LSU team that at home, you're telling me in depth, I don't understand how you could be an LSU fan, okay, and be confident against Baylor, understanding the amount of guys, and I'll get there even more so in depth, the amount of guys who are not playing this game, but also understanding that you beat Vanderbilt in Death Valley. We gave you the gift of playing Vanderbilt at home, 24-17. Your head coach, Brian Kelly, who whined in the offseason, well, our D-line is just not, it is fake Southern accent. Our D-line is just not good enough to be able to win a game, this year. We can't afford nothing. Do you still believe that the used car salesman that came down from Notre Dame, the same Notre Dame that's winning games in the college football playoff, and you're not winning games in the college football playoff, that same used car salesman is actually your head coach? Do you believe that guy's a representation of the state of Louisiana? Do you really want to come to the table and tell me that Brian Kelly is LSU? This is a school, and I grew up an Arkansas fan. I have a lot of appreciation for LSU as a program, had a lot of appreciation for what Les Miles did there when he won championships. Thought that the Joe Burrow team, it's some of the most fun I've had watching college football, seeing him carve in 2019. That was a dominant, awesome team. I hate this more for LSU than maybe anybody else because your head coach is not an LSU Tiger. Your head coach is a used car salesman who won a bunch of games at Notre Dame and now is playing dress up with purple. Kim Mulkey, awesome. She is Louisiana. That is perfect. I thought Will Wade was Louisiana when he was at LSU, Paul Maneri. I could go down a long list of baseball coaches, of softball, Beth Torina, of coaches that have matched the LSU Tigers' passion and energy. Brian Kelly's not that. Stop messing around. Stop playing. Baylor is blowing teams out week in and week out, and they want to play in this bowl game. You can't make the excuse. You can't say, oh, of course we got blown out against Baylor because none of our guys played. It doesn't work like that. We in the Big 12, we still care about college football. We still think that college football matters. In the SEC with LSU, where it just means more, this is such an uninspired team. It's an uninspiring head coach. I wouldn't walk if Deion Sanders walked into my living room. I'm probably going to go play for Deion Sanders if Brian Kelly is the guy who walked in right after. It's good to meet your family. Ed Orgeron, I get it. I know he probably didn't deserve to be the head coach there much longer. He overstayed his welcome by a year or 2 years, whatever it was. Fine. That's fine. I don't even care. But he represented the state of Louisiana. Les Miles felt like the LSU head coach. Nick Saban, the traitor Nick Saban, won a national championship. And you went with Brian Kelly? For LSU, you're missing both of its starting offensive tackles. Tight end declares early for the NFL draft. Trey'Dez Green will be the only scholarship tight end even available. This is per actionnetwork.com. It appears LSU will start 3 freshmen along the offensive line and likely kick Miles Frazier out from right guard to right tackle. Not to mention, from Campbell to Jones to Taylor to Lacey, the opt-outs, the transfer portal, potential opt-outs, there are a ton of those. And then the transfer portal. That is, I don't like your offensive line. You're going to have one normal starter and then a guy who's moving over. And then transfer portal wise, Miami commit, Ole Miss commit, a kid, the Pimpton kid, the tight end who played 141 snaps this season. J.K. Johnson is gone. I mean, he hasn't played for a while, but he's gone. Another one, Womack, who's an Ole Miss kid. It's like the offense, you're piecing things together because of opt-outs for the NFL draft. On the defense, pretty much everybody's just like your safety, outside linebacker, cornerback, defensive lineman, starting safety. and then a couple of starting wide receivers who are either opting out or leaving in the transfer portal, what's left? What's left? Nussmeier, who could only muster 26 touchdowns, given 491 passes, and Sawyer Robertson had 26 touchdowns with 317 passes? What? That's what you're banking on here in this game. That's what you think LSU is going to win. And analytically, LSU wasn't even that good this season. 45th against the run. Defensively, LSU efficiency-wise per collegefootballinsiders.com, who runs the efficiencies. These are numbers that I can't change. 45th against the run. Defensively, 71st in the country on 3rd and 4th down success. They couldn't get off the field on defense. 28th running the football this year. That's pretty good. 12th efficiency-wise throwing the football. That's not bad. But this is a Baylor team who is as hot as anybody in the country right now. And those numbers I just gave you for LSU, 45th against the run, 71st on 3rd and 4th down defensively, 28th running the football, 12th throwing the football. Part of that's because the wide receivers are good and they're opting out. Like, those are the numbers before the opt-outs. Before the opt-outs, this is probably a 3-point LSU win. But now I'm wondering what's left. You've got a stand-in offensive line. You're begging players to play. Please, it just means more. We want the SEC to win. There's no reason. I don't think there's any reason for LSU players to care about this very much. And that's not an excuse to go out and lose, but you're going to. And then that's what you're going to say. You're going to go lose. You're going to say, oh, well, we didn't care because we didn't make the college football playoff. Oh, you put up a real close game last year against Wisconsin in a bowl game to win 10. That's great, right? But where did it get? It wasn't the expectation. That 42-20 Kansas State loss is still living in my brain. I still can't give that up. Oh, you killed Purdue in that one bowl game. I mean, if I'm an LSU fan, I'm probably fed up. 12-team playoff, you still couldn't get in. You had every opportunity to do so. You could barely beat Vanderbilt this season. Oh, but it's a different Vanderbilt. Okay, bud. Okay. It stinks that for college football that LSU is where it is, but I just don't think this is going to be a very competitive game. I got the Baylor Bears, Sawyer Robertson, Bryson Washington, Richard Reese. That offense has been firing on all cylinders recently under Jake Spavital. Bears, man. Bears. This has been and always will be Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Dose Grande.